Welcome, everyone. This is a special episode on AI, and I'm very much appreciated and I'm very glad that I have three guys today in the C100 Global Wisdom Talk. Each are joining from ROC Ventures from the States. And before we start into the discussion about AI, family offices, AI, also in regards how supporting and influencing families, but also in investing in AI. I mean, that is a very interesting area, what we will see over the next couple of months, years, and decades itself. Please, guys, introduce yourself to the audience, and I will give us just first of all the ball on my left-hand side. That's Alex, and please introduce yourself and give the ball to your colleagues Aaron and David. That would be great.
Awesome. Well, great to meet you. Thank you so much for having us on. So I'm Alex Allen. I'm the Director of Operations with ROC Venture Group. Since we're a smaller team, I spend a lot of time in the technology that we utilize in evaluating technology. So I would say, as far as our team, I'm probably the one working directly with the AI, at least at a deep level, the most. And so that's my role, and I'll pass over to David.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, and Jan. Thanks for having us on the this call, and excited to sort of talk about AI today. I'm Dave Komisky. I'm one of the partners at ROC Venture Group, and will often lead diligence in tandem with Aaron and our team in investments that we're looking at regarding sort of any category, but when we're looking at AI technologies or even infrastructure supporting AI, that's diligence that I've come to spend a lot of time focusing on over the last, I would say, year or so. So looking forward to this conversation. And Aaron, I'll let you round out the introductions.
Great.
Thanks, Jan, for having us. My name is Aaron Stafford, one of the founding partners, along with Dave, here at ROC Venture Group. Really excited to have the conversation with you. I think we're really excited to talk about maybe just macro level how we think about AI generally. Dave and I spend a lot of time forming our thesis
That's great.
around AI, forming our thesis around AI. So would love to share that with you and your group.
Great. So then let's jump in. From my perspective, I mean, there are a lot of discussions around AI, and some people talking about, yeah, that's the next wave of anything else. It will be change everything else, and the other opposite is just talking, yeah, maybe we will see. I don't know. Maybe it's just only a hot topic, and it will be gone maybe in the next 10 years. So, from the macro economic standpoint, what is your perspective? What you guys seeing on the global perspective? Also, what kind of developments do you see? Do we stand in front of a huge wave, or is the wave underway? What is your perception, Aaron? If you can start with your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think when we think about AI, we think about it on a spectrum. To define that spectrum, we think like upstream, midstream, and downstream. And the risk, from an investment standpoint, right, being in our shoes when we look at investing in AI, the risk profile changes dramatically depending on where you are in that spectrum. When we think of upstream, we think of your foundational infrastructure. So all of the supporting, areas of data centers. Think energy, fiber networks, cooling, right? That's very, very upstream, incredibly capital intensive. There's regulatory barriers, so that's upstream. There's usually a pretty big moat around and barrier to entry to get in. And then midstream, you have all of your platforms and tooling. So, all of your model training and hosting, your orchestration layers. And then when you go really far downstream, you have all of your kind of vertical SaaS tools that are embedding AI into specific industries. And those tend to be what we would say is really, really probably high upside potential, but really high risk. And so when we think about it on a spectrum, there are a lot of things to really be thinking about and digging into, depending on where whatever investment you're looking at, where it sits on that spectrum. And so, again, that's what the team at ROC has been thinking a lot about. What areas we need to uncover depending on where we sit on that spectrum. I'll let Dave and or Alex jump in, but that's our way of when you do diligence in our space, you really have to be, prescriptive about your diligence and try to stay consistent around the thesis. And because AI has been changing so much, we've had to kind of figure out how to put it in a box
Yeah,
to talk about and to diligence.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think Aaron, you said that really well and articulated it. Like this is it the upstream downstream sort of dynamic from a macro level in terms of what AI as in terms of sort of transformational technology and what that looks like from an investment point of view. I think is very similar to even like the dot-com boom and bust of a couple decades ago, right? Like hyper speculative capital cycles about the way technology in terms of the internet was going to change everything. And these capital cycles went extremely fast and often it was just sort of wrong. But the foundational sort of technology shift endured, and really the internet did in fact change everything. And I think that you could draw so many parallels to that with AI today. So I think to your question, Jan, about these two, sort of two camps that are sitting out there, the
yeah,
camps of no, this is just a bubble, or no, it's already like underway and it's going to change the world. They can actually both be true at the same time. And if you're going to pursue an investment in this space or multiple, you just have to be very deliberate about which side are you falling on in terms of speculative capital markets, or a transformational shift in technology that has long-term enduring potential. And that's, I think, the way that at least the way that I think about it. I don't want to speak for the guys, but yeah.
that's great. And Alex, what is your perception on this point?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I can add too much beyond what Aaron and David have stated. I think just to kind of emphasize Aaron's point on, just how risky the lower level of just implementing the examples, implementing the LLMs into an existing product, and taking things to the next level. There, we see it I would say on an almost daily basis, where yes, there is very high upside, where the acquisitions are happening to accelerate the big players. But on the flip side, those big players are at the same time swallowing up entire segments of AI implementation and AI very specific verticalized implementations with new feature releases that is just you can to some degree see it coming, but there's, it's very, very risky. And we see, again, we're seeing it all the time with feature releases that are almost unexpected from some of the big players.
That's great. So if I go in the shoes of a family office, and I'm as a family office interested to just put it in this way, follow the path and say, yeah, maybe AI is a very great opportunity for us. And I stand in front of the market and say, okay, there are two brackets. There's an upside and there's a downside. From a valuation point of view, and what you mentioned, David, maybe there are similarities to the dot-com bubble, what we have seen in the 2000 years around. Is this just expecting, also you guys expecting that the valuation itself will be skyrocket very, very fast? Is this maybe possible that I would say today very few have an idea what does actually means, also from an what kind of tickets do you actually need to have an call it this way, in an exceptional investment in AI. I mean, it could be also that you say, yeah, I invest in AI, but you have invested in a small proportion, and it doesn't have any value over the next 5 or 10 years. I am correct with this perception?
I suspect so, Jan. I think that it's the valuations that like we're seeing with some of these companies are defying all logic, right? Like, and it's hard as principled investors to and I'm sure like your family office community, uh, everyone's sort of struggling to wrap their heads around this because you know the foundational just revenue models and the sort of financials to support some of these valuations, they're not always there. And again, you just have to be super principled about that. And if you're willing to overcome and invest at you know sky high valuations, it has to again be one of those opportunities where this isn't just trendy downstream AI technology, but this is something that can endure the bubble, right? And I think that's critical. It's I don't know if we're coming to a point where like this is just the new norm for these sky high valuations or what. Um, but it's very interesting, and I think there will be a lot of very successful investments even at uh, you know valuations that defy logic, and there will be a lot of money to be made from those investments. Uh, but I do think that there has to be some. You have to go in principled in terms of the investments that you're making. Aaron, what would you say?
Yeah, and I think when we think about AI, it's just like anything, you almost have to kind of predict the future here, and to be able to justify these valuations in your head, right? So people who are investing at these sky high valuations, they clearly think that we're just at the beginning. And I think, um, you know, it, I believe we are. Um, Now, again, I think when you're thinking about investing in AI, again, you have to look at that spectrum. In our view, right? If you're super downstream and you're investing in some downstream AI technology, right? Your moats are pretty weak, and because of that, right, like you have to predict that, like, all right, think about moats. There's workflow integration. There's like you're really focusing on like feature level differentiation, right? And so when you're looking downstream, um, you have to be betting that that company can maintain that feature level differentiation for a long period of time, without competition coming in and ultimately growing into or past that valuation that you're investing at and giving you upside in the future. And so I think that's why we're kind of we really look when we look downstream, we look at um, what the real true barriers to entry are in any given company we invest in, because it's the valuations are high, and in order to get a return on them, you have to be the best of the best, and you have to stay the best of the best for a certain period of time, versus being very upstream. The valuations are the multiples are going to be a little bit different, but you're likely it's going to be more capital intensive, but your moat and barrier to entry is much higher. And so you can depend on slightly lower multiples, but likely less, you have a little bit less risk involved in the investments. So I think it really always depends on where you sit on that spectrum. But um, I think that we're going to continue to see valuations increase in the space regardless of where you are on that spectrum. I think the higher up upstream the spectrum you are, the more you're also probably relying on, you know, the cost of capital, because again, it's so capex specific. But I don't know. It's a interesting space to analyze, and I think we're all going to be wrong in 10 years. I think somehow we'll probably be somewhat right, but we're going to be come across many surprises over the next decade. And I think um, you know there's a lot more to see in AI than we've even. I think we're just scratching the surface. Alex can probably speak to some of the really unique ways we're using AI. And it's like every week or maybe I should say every month, he's implementing something new internally in our business. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm mind blown at, you know, 8 months ago, maybe we didn't integrate any of it. And now it's like every month
Yeah.
we have, a new tool that's saving us hours and hours. I don't know what that's going to look like in 5 years. Um, so I think it's a really
Yeah, I think
fascinating thing to talk about.
one other, so I mean, yeah, obviously we can dig into the weeds and talk about how it's impacting rock and our productivity, but there's also another aspect to think about, which there's been, some news recently as well, which is, what are the secondary impacts of the the technology and how quickly it's progressing. So if you think about something like, fusion, right? So how is that, connected, right? Fusion energy, how is that connected directly to AI? Well, there it's the development is accelerating because of the tools that are available and the ability to problem solve and create solutions. So something that could have been projected 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, based on the current speed. Well, now the return on an investment in that space could be halved, because of the advancement in the technology. So there is also that aspect to think about, and that's why, to bring it back to the initial question that you asked of where does it sit 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I think that's a hockey stick curve of, yeah, I mean, it's so hard to predict because it just continues to accelerate, and the impact, of course, continues to accelerate along with it.
I'm absolutely with you guys, and the question what is actually in my mind and have arise if you have spoken about these developments is just, I mean, if we take a look into the world of the family offices, I mean, most of them just don't working with AI, just in regards of due diligence or asset allocation or stuff like that. And my question was, and is, I mean, if you don't familiar with using AI for your own benefit, call it this way, maybe it is even harder to figure out, okay, what could be the best investment opportunity in AI. Yes, it could be maybe these two brackets to say, yeah, I will invest in infrastructure, data center, fiber, whatever that means. Maybe also on the flip side of this, in the solution side. But if you don't have these experience and also what you're talking about, Alex, to have maybe in developing an idea what AI maybe actually means for my business, for my personal life, for everything, right? It could be very hard to come to in very proper decision, okay, what kind of AI investment strategy should I follow, right? And my question is just, I mean, family offices are also your main investors. Do you support family offices to find out what could be the right bracket to invest in? Or what do you see from your perspective on family offices? What their considerations, what their actions, maybe what's their strategies into AI?
Yep, absolutely. I think first, a lot of family offices have given a lot of thought into their legacy and how they want to be remembered and pass on their legacy. And so, I think first understanding if there's a specific industry that they have interest in and really listening to understand what their wants and needs are. But I think, really just advising them, when they're looking at AI investments to really dig deep and form a thesis, and whether it's aligned with ours or not, that's okay. But ultimately, we believe in our thesis around, risk tolerance. So, I think there's a couple of variables. It's how do they want to be remembered? What, is there a specific space they want to invest in, and what's their risk tolerance? And um, you know, based on those two things, we can like use our AI spectrum, right? Our this tool we use when diligencing AI companies, and we can apply it to whatever industry, is of interest to them, and kind of help them get a feel for maybe what types of companies in technology they should be looking at. Dave, Alex, I don't know if you have any other additions to that.
Well, maybe not so much to that, but I think, Jan, part of your question also was uh, how are family offices using or not using AI themselves, and I think that's probably all over the map. But I can speak, and Alex, I think you could also speak a little bit to our own perspective, because I think you're right, Jan. When just rewind 12 months or 18 months ago, when everything started to sort of roll out, I had personally a very sort of deliberate conversation with myself where I was like, if I don't start adopting this, it's going to pass me by and I'm going to be too late to the wave. Like this is moving so fast that you either have to embrace it and adopt it, or you're too late.
Right.
Right. And I think our team really, with Alex's lead, has done that more so than many, in terms of the way we've incorporated our own use of AI into our operations, our daily jobs, and just our daily use. And I think that has helped us formalize our opinions and our thesis on investments in AI as well. And I'm sure that there are family offices out there that are also on the cutting edge of adoption and usage of AI to just do what they do better. But then I'm sure there are also many, and probably the majority, who are lagging a little bit, because the pace at which this innovation is coming is is almost too fast to even wrap your head around, right? And so I do think it has to be a very conscious effort to say, okay, I'm going to learn this aspect of AI today for my own personal use or for my own business, and and uh, and see where it can take me from there. So, Alex,
I,
well,
I'm going to
oh,
cut
go
off
ahead, Aaron.
Alex
Yeah.
real quick and kind of maybe set the stage here. So, um, you know, Jan, here at ROC, we're we have an investor relations person who and we all depend on our CRM system. We have internal comms through Slack. We have, you know, G Suite, right? So between our email and our Google Drive, where a lot of our files are stored. Um, you know, at one point, those didn't live together, right? They were um, all very disparate kind of systems. And I think we live in a time where one, data cleanliness is of the utmost importance because your what you get out of AI is dependent on what data you feed it. And so as we at ROC kind of create our data reservoir, as Alex has built, that's become incredibly important. So I think it's data cleanliness and then accessibility to the data. So, you know, how do you ensure that any systems and tools you're using are accessible and can be, you know, living in that data reservoir to access? And I'll give you an example. Just 2 days ago, I was sitting down with an investor of ours, and he asked me a question about one of his investments. We have a lot of investors, and this was a casual meeting. I wasn't prepared to really talk about investments. So it was more of a personal meeting with this investor. And, but, you know, so I wasn't prepared, but he asked me, you know, when did I invest in this company and what were the terms of that investment? In the specific portfolio company that he had invested in, we had invested and followed on multiple times. So I had actually forgotten which deal which round he had actually invested in. And so I picked up my phone, and because we have, you know, a data reservoir that all of our data sources are tied to, I was able to ask ChatGPT 5, uh, you know, what was this investor's investment? You know, when did he invest? What was the round? What was the valuation? All of these things, and it pulled up everything, including like bank statements when he wired to us. So we had all of more detail than I would have been able to go and find on my own, but within like a split second. And that was because of Alex's doing and understanding how to really architect our business. And I think that that's something that we enjoy talking about and something that family offices could absolutely integrate into their
That's
day-to-day.
great.
Well, now you just stole all of Alex's thunder, Aaron.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Alex
Yes.
has a lot of thunder. So
But yeah, that's true. He does. He's a whole thunderstorm. Jan, think about that though, from a family office perspective. How much data over how many centuries or decades, I should say, do family offices have that are siloed right now? And like, if structured the right way, this is a game changer for the way family offices do business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from my own experience, since I use ChatGPT mainly, it was increasing to my capability to ask better questions. And that is
Yes.
what I mean, that's the main criteria, I guess, for each investment or for each, what you described, Aaron. Just ask the right question and you will get the exact information what you request, not fluffy stuff and stuff like that. But if I put it just in a picture in also from a family office perspective or from a family or from an individual investor, it's just a question: do you have the best capability to ask better questions in regards of AI? And that brings me just also in regards of this is, and we have discussed this also in our previous calls. It's just if I make the prediction to say the normal AI startup isn't just what we have seen over the last past 5 or 10 years. There are 10 guys or 15 guys or stuff like that. Maybe there's one, maybe there's two. And these guys, if I want to invest in, they're asking for, call it this way, 100 million. I say, what? That is a great risk because these guys can cross the street and there will be a truck and they will go. What's happened? Right? What is your projection on let's make this on this simple example very clear, because that from my perspective that could be the normal way that you will see increasingly more young guys setting up their AI startup, and then they're sitting in a garage or in their home office and creating exceptional AI solutions, right? And from a risk profile toward, what does it mean actually for investors like you, right? How do you handle these kind of risk? Can you give me just an idea? How do you approach this?
Aaron, do you want me to start or do you want to start?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Uh, it is fascinating, Jan. I mean, so I think it was just yesterday, Aaron and I were talking to a company that we've been evaluating. They just raised some capital, and I said, okay, so I'm assuming, you've taken some capital and you're going to start scaling the team. Uh, and the founder and CEO said, no, we're not really going to scale the team at all. We're going to deploy that capital mostly towards marketing and development, but like our idea is to keep this, in the single digits of team members, and scale it to, a multi-million-dollar business. And it was a very early stage company. We have another investment, an investment we've done in the AI space, uh, that has raised hundreds of millions of dollars and has a team under 50, right? And like it's just remarkable. And they're producing things that you would never imagine possible with that lean of a team. And the entire shift is going in that direction. And so I actually think it's incredible and valuable. At first, every large company that began adopting AI with the, sort of the mantra of this is going to make our people more productive, and it definitely does, but also it's going to entirely change the workforce, and the human capital required to build and scale businesses. That's just going to change. I have, and I'm sure many of the family offices, I have a niece who's going to college, and she's asking me, what do I study to make sure that I have opportunities in front of me, because what's going to disappear and what's not going to disappear in terms of work, it's, you have to be very careful about those things. And so I think that's just a little sort of microcosm of the way all labor and human capital is going to change with AI, and it's going to come sooner than anybody anticipates. I think like 5 to 10 years, that's changing. From the startup perspective, companies will get to unicorn status faster and with fewer team members than ever before. From a Fortune 500 perspective, the workforces are going to be cut by, I don't know, 50%, something like that, maybe. Uh, and it's going to really change, I think, everything. Very similar to the way the Industrial Revolution changed everything in terms of human labor as well.
I I think, like the computer science degree, it's interesting. Like we can already look back at that and say like, wow, that degree, 5 years ago, everybody was thinking, they could go to school, get a computer science degree, and become, software engineer, and have a really, really good cushiony job. And now we're seeing people like Alex, who doesn't have a software development background be able to use these AI tools and build incredible technology. Alex, I mean, I don't know if you want to, Jan, I don't know if it's helpful to hear kind of some of the technology that you
Yeah,
built.
please, yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely, I can dive into that. To kind of bring it from, Aaron pointed out, I don't have a software development background, but I have a fairly technical background. So talking about the data lake, right, and how we're able to connect the disparate systems to pull a very, complete picture of certain events, certain individuals as they relate to our business, portfolio companies, all of these different things. It's not to say 10 years ago that you wouldn't be able to pull that information together. But what does, to your point, what does the team look like that's required to do that? What is the technology that's required to do that? You're going to have data analysts, in there pulling these, into a robust database and building all of those relationships. And, a term from a technical perspective is, a fuzzy match, right? Where you don't have a clear one-to-one relationship to make those connections. Well, essentially, because of the decision making that is now happening with these tools, you're just bringing all this data in and making it available. And then there's reasoning that's happening as these systems are looking at the data to make those matches. And it makes it so much simpler. And, I'm the team member. So as an example, when we utilize an investment relationship platform, we had some challenges with fit as far as what we're looking to do and the way that we run our business. And so we looked at the market, and I spent a good amount of time evaluating products just 6 months ago, 9 months ago, something like this. And what I found was, there were some core features that we were looking for that these, robust, software companies didn't have. And in dialogue, the timeline to build these features was, 6 months out, or, simply we're not doing it. And so we ended up kind of at a decision of, do we stick with what we have? Do we, we got a quote from a team that was in, the hundreds of thousands to build a platform. And, something that I did in my, personal time was I looked at these, vibe coding platforms. And so that's when I started to roll out features, small products to solve small workflow issues in our business, things as simple as tracking expenses, getting notes into a CRM, things along those lines. And so able to build those, anything that we didn't know or I didn't know, AI was able to help and to teach and to problem solve. And so we had a conversation internally, and I said, take a swing at it and see really, what this tool can do. And I think, there were some naysayers. I'm not going to point out any names, people with concerns, whether we could move it forward. But what we were able to do, and I think because of my background in DevOps and working directly with a technology team, I don't think that can be discounted. You still have to have a core understanding of structure for a product. We've been able to build a product that wasn't on the shelf and do things that, again, big companies with multiple customers, many customers with large teams gave timelines of 3 to 6 months, and obviously they do have a large customer base. They have to be concerned about the impact, right? And they're not as nimble. But these tools make it very possible that with one or two team members that do have a technology background are able to potentially significantly impact the spend of the organization by pulling some of these large contracts that are being paid $130 a month user, right, with user counts and 20, 30, 40 users across the organization. Well, those can be built out very specific to your workflow at a fraction of the cost. So, there's so many, if you just think about that and what that impact is, on a family office, right? And to streamline the workflow and to have a product that fits your workflow rather than having to adjust to the product. And then, you think about these software companies and, these CRM companies and things along those lines. How's it going to impact their user base? How's it going to impact their growth? Are we going to see that growth slow? So yeah, I mean, just to come back, like the impact of AI, it's just across the board.
Yes, it's in very, very amazing discussion with you guys, and I would be more than happy to continue this just in the second round, because we are crossing the end for today. And I will just add just my perspective on this. For me personally, it's just AI will changing the landscape completely, right? And I will add that we guys, we are sitting today, we don't have any clue what is standing in front of us over the next 2 years, maybe for the next 12 months, right? Because what you also mentioned is, I mean, it is so with so many speed, and these things come up, and also on the flip side of this is just, I mean, we will see a lot of more billionaires coming out of these wave of AI, young billionaires, right? And the thing is just, I would say it is just even better to consider today what could be the right approach to invest in AI, and what could be the right bracket, and also what kind of impact, if I just put this just the head of an family or family office, what kind of impact can I generate through AI, right, over generations? Because for me personally, AI will be not gone. I mean, that will be there in the next century. I don't know what does it mean, and it is just also from a human point. From a human perspective, that is what I mentioned, just to be capable of asking better questions. Because if you ask better questions, you will get just proper and better information through AI, and you can do better decisions, right? And you can maybe out-investment your competition if you want, right? But many individuals have just a challenge in asking better questions. So for today, my final question to you guys is just, if I add this just as an add-on, what I've said previously is just, can you give us just my audience and your audience as well, just in 1 or 2 sentences, how will AI change the world in 500 years from now? If we have the opportunity that we schedule the next appointment in 500 years from now, how is the world look like in 500 years from now? Maybe that could be hard. Maybe it is challenging for you guys. Please give me your ideas. Give me your thoughts. Aaron, you are the first.
Yeah, you're asking you're asking a group of folks who are used to being as precise as possible with very predictable kind of outcomes. I think we will certainly, in fact, we've made investments in the space. We will certainly be interacting with robots, and I think that there will be a massive um, gap between the lower income earners and the higher income earners. I think that will get very, very, very wide, unfortunately. But I don't see anything stopping that.
David, what's your perception?
Yeah, I was going to say also robots. We will in every facet of life, we will be interacting with and having robots work, and I'll even use the word live amongst us, right? And I think, by the way, 500 years, like that's going to be in 10, 15 years. But in 500 years, it's I think that what we'll see there will be truly remarkable. Wow, it's a very hard question, Jan. I have to also agree with Aaron around the disparity that will happen in terms of income brackets, and but I also believe that globally, that incomes and civilizations will rise, and we'll see a lot of the third world come out of being third world as well, because of technology. So yeah.
And Alex?
Well,
Save
yeah,
the best for last year.
I thought I was going to be, Aaron stole my thunder with the doom and gloom. So I'm going to have to go a different direction. But I mean, I think one thing I want to just call out that David said is, he used the term globally. Well, in 500 years, I don't think we're going to be thinking globally. Multi-planetary is, I mean, it seems inevitable at this point. But I'll go, a little far out there. And so I think, in 500 years and probably much less time than that, I think that we will have no idea whether we are operating in the real world or a simulation, because the technology will be there that you won't be able to tell the difference. And that's a pretty scary thought, because that means we could be in a simulation right now.
Yeah.
You went the doom and gloom now.
So guys, that was amazing. So it was mind-blowing for me. And once again, I would be more than happy if we can plan a second round, because for me personally, and my feeling is just there are so many things that should be discussed, but also that we give just these audience and people out there just the opportunity to learn more about this, because that is crucial, because AI will affect each area of our personal life and also of our business life, right? And it's just even better to have a better degree of knowledge, and that you can use AI for your personal benefit. Also, what I've mentioned, to consider what kind of impact can I generate through AI. That is just a serious question, right? So for now, it was once again, it's a great topic, and I've enjoyed it very much. Alex, many thanks for your time. Aaron, also many thanks for your time. David as well, because your time and my time is the greatest treasure. And for now, many thanks, and I hope to see you next.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.